Well, hello and welcome to another Q&A with Mayor Christian Provenzano, who has been good enough to set aside some time to answer your questions. These questions came in yesterday and through the evening, and we've pulled what we think are the most pressing. We apologize once again, we can't get to all of the questions. We could probably be here all day at answering questions. If you don't mind, we'll get right into it. So we had a couple people answer or ask some related questions, basically around, what can the city do? What can we do to lock things down? So two questions. Can you and the other mayors of Algoma get together and just decide to shut down Algoma so no one else is allowed in and out? Is that something that we can do?
Yeah, so Mike, let me start by just thanking you and the team at Village for giving us the opportunity to talk to the community, and thank everybody who's sent in questions, and also thank everybody who's adjusting their behavior right now. I think we're seeing a lot of people really making an effort to stay home and keep other people safe. So to the substance of your question, I'm going to try and be a lot more succinct this time so we can get through more questions if you want to, and if there's others you want to ask that you haven't sent to me, feel free to ask whatever you like. To this question specifically, no, we can't do that. We have no authority. So the mayor of Echo Bay and the mayor of Prince and the mayor of Elliott Lake and I can get together with all of our other Algoma mayors and take the position we want to close Algoma to anybody who doesn't reside in Algoma, but we simply don't have that authority. We don't have that lawful authority. We get our authority from the Municipal Act, and the province, frankly, is the body that's in charge here, and they would have to make a decision like that.
Well, and this is something that I know a number of communities have been asked about, but and this is a related question. Can the city ask people in Sault Ste. Marie to lock themselves down further than they already are?
The short answer to that is not really no. So we are working off the provincial orders. So we have a provincial emergency that's been declared, and the province is issuing orders. The province has the authority in the jurisdiction. So the province has essentially said, look, non-essential businesses have to shut down, and these are the businesses that are allowed to stay open. So if we were to quote unquote lock things down further, we would have to act in addition to that order. So we would have to be saying, okay, well, the province said some of these businesses can stay open, but we don't agree with that. We want them to be closed. And we can't do that. So what the province has said is closed, and what the province has said is opened, and the municipality has no way to circumvent the province. I do want to say and recognize, I think the province is doing a good job. I'm just giving that example to answer the question, not to fault the province in any way. So I think the province is doing a good job, but the province is the body that determines what stays open, what closes, and the city doesn't have any jurisdiction to go beyond the province's order.
I think where some of these questions are coming is people are feeling that too many people in the Soo are out for non-essential reasons. Is there anything the city can do to enforce, I guess, those rules or those recommendations?
So we could enforce the provincial orders, right? So Sault Ste. Marie Police Services has very clearly indicated that if there's a social gathering or a public gathering of more than 5 people, they're going to enforce that. So the Algoma Public Health has enforcement ability, Sault Ste. Marie Police Service has enforcement ability, and they are acting to enforce those orders. But we can't make enforcement beyond what those orders are. I think there's a couple things happening, and I'll speak to them from my perspective. I do think there has been a significant change in behavior, but we still see cars driving around, and I understand people see cars driving around and think this is too much activity, but we really don't know whether someone's going out for non-essential reasons. I think the majority of people are going out for essential reasons. But I do get emails and I do get social media messages, people saying there was somebody at the grocery store and they were just walking around talking. That kind of behavior isn't acceptable. Like if you don't need to go to the grocery store, you shouldn't be going to the grocery store. But that's also something that would be really hard for us to police. And we don't practically have the resources to police that. So what we need is community buy-in. We all need to be playing by the same set of rules. We all need to be encouraging the family and friends in our life to play by those rules. I talk to my parents regularly. I talk to relatives of mine and friends of mine regularly about the importance of staying home, about the importance of not going to a place if you don't need to go to a place. There was, the other day, I'll give you an example. We were out in our yard, and my wife was saying we needed a push broom. So she suggested that, I go get a push broom at Canadian Tire so that we can kind of clean up the garage a bit and clean up the driveway a bit. And I said, I can't go to Canadian Tire and get a push broom because that's not essential right now. And I can't, by way of being an example, have people see me in Canadian Tire getting a push broom, because we have to send that message to everybody that things that are not critical, things that you don't need to do right now, you can't consider essential and go out and get the resources you need to do those things. But I think, Mike, a big challenge here is that we're going from being like, we're a completely free community and free society, right? Like, we've always been able just to get up and go where you want. You want to go to Canadian Tire, you go to Canadian Tire. You want to go to Metro, you go to Metro. If you feel like running out to the beer store to get 6 beer, you go to the beer store and get 6 beer. Those things come second nature to us. We've never, ever in my lifetime, and many of our lifetimes in your lifetime, had voluntarily put limits on our liberty, voluntarily adjusted our behavior to not do things that are really common to us and frankly seem harmless. It's harmless for me to go to Canadian Tire and get a push broom, but not really if I'm carrying the virus, and I don't know whether I'm carrying the virus or not. I could be carrying the virus and be contagious, and I can go to Canadian Tire and I can get that push broom, and I can be a few feet away from someone in that aisle who's got someone in their life that's high risk, and I could pass it to that person who passes it to that person, and that person can then pass away. So what we need to do is we need to communicate the critical importance of staying home. And I think that people are seeing now, we're seeing in the media a lot of really difficult stories about people who have COVID-19. And it's a dreadful virus. And I think the more of those stories that people see, the more people will recognize how important it is that we all just take a step back and stay home. Things that we might think in the moment are essential aren't. And we have to really examine those considerations. The city is going to do everything it can to enforce the orders. But a big part of this is we need people to act more conscientiously with considerations of others in mind. We have a habit as a society, Mike, to talk about our rights. And I think right now we have to stop that talk and we have to talk about our responsibilities. We are in an international pandemic, and every one of us has to focus more on our civic responsibilities than our rights. There's little the city could do if someone's at the grocery store getting too close to people and having too many conversations and just there to socialize. We can try and track that down. We can try and find that person and take issue with them breaching the physical distancing rules. But we really need everybody's help. We need everybody to be doing this. We need everybody to talk to their friends and neighbors about doing this. And the rules are very simple. If you have a COVID-19 symptom, you self-isolate. If you don't have a COVID-19 symptom, you stay home. If you can't stay home for a reason, if you need something, if you need diapers for your child or you need milk for your children, then you can go out. But when you go out, practice physical distancing.
And now, that leads into, it's Easter weekend is coming up. People may have a hard time with this. Obviously we've been told, that this is not a time when people should be having family over outside your immediate household. What can you say about that? What should people be doing this time? What is acceptable? I think there's going to be people who are going to be tempted to, drive to their relatives' homes and attempt to do something with physical distancing. What is okay in this scenario?
So look, I can keep this really simple. You're not supposed to socialize with anybody outside of your immediate family that lives in your household. So this Easter weekend, for the first time in my life and for the first time in my wife's life, we won't be seeing our whole family. We live in the Drake Welcome Atlas neighborhood. My parents live over on Centennial, which is, I doubt, 2 kilometers away. And my in-laws live over on Colson, which I doubt is 2 kilometers away. And we won't be going over to my parents. We won't be going over to my in-laws. They won't be coming over to our house. Kylie, Isla, Chloe, Alice, and I will be having Easter dinner together. We'll be doing some Zoom video teleconferencing with our parents and our siblings, so we can spend some virtual time together. But we won't be socializing outside of the 5 of us. I understand completely the desire to spend time with your family. I understand the importance of it. But what we have to realize is we're doing what we're doing right now so we can get back to that normal. And the more of us that adhere strictly to the rules, the quicker we will get back to that normal. So we're doing this. We're foregoing spending this time with our families so that we can get back to spending time with our families. My little girls miss all 4 of their grandparents. They're blessed to have them all in their lives still. They haven't spent time with any of their grandparents in over 3 weeks now. By the time we get to this weekend, it'll be a full month that they haven't spent time with their grandparents. And these are little girls that see their grandparents multiple times a week. So people have to recognize that we're making these sacrifices now so that we can get back to our normal. And the more of us that make the sacrifices, the more strictly we adhere to the rules, the quicker we'll get back to our normal. And we all look forward to that time. So this weekend, people have asked me, look, as long as there's less than 5 people in the house, can we get together? The answer to that is no. If you are outside for reasons that you have to be outside, you have to be in a group of less than 5. You have to practice social distancing. But as far as I'm concerned, and as far as I understand the regulations and the rules and the recommendations, you shouldn't socialize with anybody in close proximity that doesn't live in your own household. So I would discourage people from going to each other's house to have Easter dinner.
Do you have a sense of whether there's going to be any kind of enforcement of this, or are bylaw officers watching for this, or the police watching for this weekend?
So the police have made it clear that if you see anybody breaching the regulation that you can't socialize in groups more than 5, to call them and they'll deal with it. And I can tell you, our officers, we have a sizable force for our community. We have a lot of officers. The chief is committed to this. He's on this. If you see anybody breaching these rules, call Sault Ste. Marine Police Services and they'll deal with it. They've dealt with it to date. I had a conversation with the chief this week. He's been pretty pleased. He thinks the community's really gotten the message. He's had a number of calls, but there hasn't been a significant number of calls in his opinion. But he said when he's had a call and they've looked into it, the people that they've had to deal with have been very compliant. And again, this is a big adjustment process, Mike. Going from complete liberty, living in a free and democratic society, being able to go where you want, when you want, how you want, without answering anybody, to completely curtailing those liberties. It's hard, and it's going to take a while. I personally believe the community is adjusting. I believe that there's a lot of people that have changed their behavior, and I want to focus on that. I want to thank the people who have done that, and I want to ask them to positively and respectfully engage with people that haven't, and help bring people on side so that we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a surreal situation to actually be asking about enforcement on Easter weekend. Absolutely. So I appreciate you answering that. And this next question is sort of related. It's and I'm not sure it's something that you can answer, but it is something that's come up. People, Easter weekend is a time a lot of people make their first sort of trips out to camp. I know across the province, we've seen other communities where they've said, hey, listen, don't come to the cottage from another community. But do you have a sense of, give people some guidance in terms of what they should be doing there?
Yeah.
Should they be going to camp this weekend? Are we asking people from out of town as well, which is a separate question, but are we asking people from out of town, don't come up here to St. Joe's Island, or don't come up to your camp in this area?
So we have no way to enforce or restrict people from out of town coming up to our district, our area, St. Joe's Island, to go to their cottages. We've seen the Toronto Medical Officer of Health the medical officer of health for Toronto, discourage people from going from the city of Toronto to their own cottages. Actually, that might have been Dr. Tam who did that. One of the two of them discouraged people from leaving the city and going to their cottages. And one of the things they were concerned about is overwhelming the healthcare system in smaller communities. I'm going to take the question and just focus on Algoma. In my understanding of the rules and the regulations and what they're recommending, I personally don't see an issue with somebody who lives in Algoma going to their cottage in Algoma. I would be very clear that if they are going to their cottage, they should just be going to their cottage with the people that live in their household that they socialize with on a daily basis, that they shouldn't socialize with anybody outside of their household at their cottage, and that they should maintain physical distancing if they're at their cottage and they have, there's people that are friends at other cottages. So, if you can follow those rules, I don't see an issue with, like, if you got a place in St. Joe's Island and you live in the city in Sault Ste. Marie, go to your place in St. Joe's Island for the weekend and enjoying it and getting out of your house and spending time around your cottage, provided that you do that with the people that you actually spend time with in Sault Ste. Marie. So my wife and I were go to the cottage this weekend. We're not, but if we were to go to the cottage this weekend, we would just socialize with each other and our girls, and we wouldn't socialize with any of our other neighbors. The difference I think here is that the Siouxites who are going to their cottage on the weekend, they're going to be accessing the same healthcare system as they would be, regardless of whether they're at their cottage or in Sault Ste. Marie, right? It's the Algoma system is the system they're in. I think what they're trying to discourage is people leaving one district and going to another district and maybe overwhelming that district, because a lot of, like, just say the Muskokas, right? So a lot of people from Toronto have places in the Muskokas, and the people from Toronto, if they all go to their cottage in the Muskokas, they can bring that virus with them, spread it through Muskoka really quickly, and overwhelm the Muskoka healthcare system. But I don't see that same dynamic happening here in Algoma. So I would discourage anybody from leaving the district of Algoma. I would encourage everybody, if your cottage is in the district of Algoma, I don't personally see an issue with going to your cottage, but when you're at your cottage, you should adhere to all of the physical distancing principles. If you have a COVID-19 symptom, though, you should not be going to your cottage. If you have a COVID-19 symptom, and you can go and check out whether or not you do through Algoma Public Health's website and the self-assessment tool, you need to stay home. If you have a COVID-19 symptom, you need to stay in your own house. You can't leave and go to your cottage.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, despite everything that's going on, we did get a number of questions about potholes.
Yeah.
I think the underlying suggestion here is that, with everybody off the streets, there's less traffic. Hey, wouldn't this be a great time to do some extra pothole repair? I've personally seen pothole repair going on right now. I guess we are doing maybe there should be more. Could we be doing more to fill the potholes right now?
So it's a good question. We are doing it. Thanks for recognizing we are doing it. But while we're doing it, we are affected by weather, right? So wet weather is not really helpful for us doing it. So there's some regulating factors. But one of the main regulating factors is we are having our own public works employees follow the physical distancing principles, right? So our ability to get extra work done is a little hampered. One, because of the size of what we're dealing with right now as a municipality and some where our resources are focused. And two, as while our guys are working, they're having to follow the physical distancing principles. So they maybe aren't able to be as efficient as they would be otherwise. So it's a good suggestion. You'll notice we're cleaning all of the streets. We've got the team out cleaning the streets, and we are going to keep on pothole repair. Whether or not to be able to accelerate that is a function of some different factors that are a little beyond our control.
Okay, fair enough. We did get a number of questions about that, so I thought I would check on that. Another question that came up: what is going to be the status of marinas and boat launches this season?
It's not real clear to us right now. Obviously, we'd like to open our marinas, but the reality is the marinas don't lend themselves to physical distancing principles, right? So like you have a whole bunch of people in a very condensed area. So we hope to have more clarity on that in a few weeks. But if these orders stay in place well into the summer, they're going to affect our ability to open the marinas. We can't very well open a social area where you have multiple boats in close proximity to one another, and people on docks, lots of people on docks that are less than 2 meters wide, and ask them to not congregate and practice physical distancing. So, it's unlikely that marinas will be fall into the essential services list, and if the orders stay in place, it's going to be difficult to open them, and it might very well delay the open of them. But we hope to have more clarity on that in a few weeks.
What about boat launches? I get the sense that people are seeing this as a great opportunity to get their boat in the water and go fishing. Is that something that's open right now? And what do you see happening?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything stopping you from going down to Pine Street and putting your boat in the water. Yeah, I'd have to focus on that a little more, but I don't see anything off the top of my head that's stopping you from doing that. I mean, but who are you in the boat with, right? So you and I don't live in the same house, Mike. If we might be fishing buddies, we can't go get in the boat together and go fishing. So
Right.
people have to recognize that no matter where they are, they have to follow those principles. So, if Kylie and I fish, Kylie and I can go get in the boat together and go fishing. But you can't go pick up your buddy and go drop your boat in and go fishing because you wouldn't be adhering to the physical distancing principles we're asking you to adhere to.
So that's an important point, actually.
Yeah.
Similarly, is the landfill. I know some decisions were made around, I think, Saturday openings just this week.
Listen, sorry, Mike, I'll let you finish there.
Well, I think the question is, somebody was asking, they're saying, well, I'm out there, even though Saturday's not open, it's supposed to be for essential uses. It seems really too busy. It seems like everybody's doing their spring cleaning and they're bringing their junk down to the landfill anyways. Should we not just shut it right down, or can we do that, or how can we keep people from coming out for non-essential reasons?
So look, we've talked through these issues. The city, you asked me last time we talked about closing streets so people could walk on them, and I said to you, look, the city doesn't want to make any decisions that encourages people to congregate, but we also don't want to make any decisions that discourage people from actual engaging in productive activities. So, if now is a good time to clean up your yard. Right, going out to clean up your yard gets you out of your house. You can clean up your yard and adhere to physical distancing principles. You can do some spring cleaning. You can clean out your garage and not be interacting with your neighbors. Like, those are good activities. But if you're not going to go do that, if you've got nowhere to throw the garbage after. So we see the landfill being open as helpful to people in giving them something to do. If they want something to do as far as cleaning up their own home or their own yard, then they can come and dispose of the materials. At the landfill, the city is very sensitive to any kind of socialization. So the staff out there, everything's contactless now. So you can't go to the landfill and pay by cash. And then our structure, the way it's set up, it's not really conducive to getting out of your vehicles and milling around and talking to each other. But our staff up there are being mindful of that, and they're discouraging any kind of activity that isn't consistent with our physical distancing principles. So we talking to the landfill staff, the management up there, the CEO satisfied that the activity that's going on is consistent with physical distancing principles and that there isn't a significant problem there. If we were to see a problem that we couldn't deal with, then we would talk through the potential of closing it. But right now, it's helpful to people. It's helpful to people that they can, go out and clean up their yard or clean up some stuff in their house or clean up their garage, load up their truck and get rid of it all. And it is an activity, right? It's something that people can engage in right now that can be consistent with physical distancing principles.
Okay. Here's another question. Can the city do this, or is this something the city has considered in terms of imposing a curfew for youth, I guess?
Yeah, we haven't considered doing that yet. So it hasn't been a topic of discussion, to be frank. Beyond you asking the question right now, I've only had one person email that suggestion to me. It's not. We haven't seen a significant problem that we had to deal with by way of a curfew. It's something we could discuss in the future if we see a need to. But again, if you implement something like that, you have to enforce it, and then there become enforcement challenges. So we'd be adding that to Sault Ste. Marie Police Services list of things they have to deal with right now. And so if we were to do that, we'd be doing that in conjunction with the police chief, and it would have to be something that he thought was necessary and appropriate at this time.
Right. So yeah, at this point, not seeing a need for that.
No, we're not.
A number of people asked us about this, so I'm going to ask you about it. It's probably more under the purview of the healthcare system, but we got a number of emails yesterday and through the night asking, is there going to be another site for the hospital for the COVID-19 patients? A number of people were suggesting possible places. I don't know if we need to get into that, but is that something that the city has been in discussion with the health officials about, or thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can speak to that generally, and I'll explain to you why I can only speak to it generally. So the city has an emergency management planning committee, and even when we're not in emergency, we meet regularly. But since this emergency began, we've been meeting more consistently. So that committee has stakeholders from across the community, going to public health, Sault area hospitals, the PUC, the fire chief, the police chief, the 49th Field Regiment, all of the major stakeholders across the community that would have to be involved in response to an emergency get together. And the Sault area hospitals is there. So there are different agencies that are responsible for different things in our community, and Sault area hospitals is responsible for healthcare. So they're the lead agency on healthcare. So these questions are really more appropriately answered by them. What I can say is that the city has been committed to supporting Sault area hospitals, and we've been working closely with it. Sault area hospitals has developed an internal surge plan, and then they've developed an external surge plan. So I'm confident as the mayor of the community, they are prepared. I'm confident that the city has committed its abilities and its resources to help them prepare. And I'm confident that if we see a surge that is greater than that they can handle internally, that we will have the facilities in place to handle that surge externally. I'm not at liberty to really say more than that, because it's really more appropriate that Sault area hospitals would speak to those details than me.
Okay, fair enough. We did get a number of questions, so I thought I would ask that. People seem very concerned about that, and that's something that I'm sure we'll bring up with the hospital.
I want to assure people that Sault area hospitals has done tremendous work there, and they're prepared. I don't want the community to be concerned about that. The community should be aware that emergency management planning is addressing it, and it's being addressed very capably and very thoroughly, and we're going to be in good shape if we need that capacity.
Okay, excellent. So you did mention that you were available to answer a couple extra questions if we had them. I'm just looking at a couple that just came in this morning.
Sure. Go ahead.
Along the lines of some of the other questions that we'd had, people were asking about taxes and deferrals, but this is a question asking, what is the city looking at in terms of, possibly shelving or delaying any kinds of projects that are going on? The downtown plaza is one that was brought up in this question. Is there anything the city is actually looking at this point in terms of delaying or canceling projects?
So we'll be focused on that more coming near the end of April to make those assessments. We're going to have a larger conversation with council when we give them a clear picture of what our own budget looks like and how this is affecting us. We're obviously losing a lot of revenue right now. We don't have facilities open that generate revenue. We expect we will lose some tax revenue. The PUC is expecting that it's going to have a revenue decrease, which will potentially affect revenue the city receives from PUC. So these are all conversations. We have to have a holistic discussion about this. And we have to be focused on our budget. And I think people are right to point out, well, if you have a revenue drop, you should look at where you can kind of decrease spending. And we have to do that. We have to do that in such a way, though, where we don't handicap ourselves or affect our own ability to get projects done. One of the things that I anticipate might happen when we come out of this is that one of the ways the federal and the provincial government might try and get the economy going again is to stimulate some infrastructure spending. and to stimulate projects that municipalities can do, that provinces can do, and that the federal government can do. So we want to be in a position, if there are provincial and federal monies to do projects, we want to be in a position to do those projects so we could, we can do them in a time when they cost us less as a municipality. So we will be having some broader discussions with council at the end of April, beginning of May, about what this looks like, about what our budget looks like, and what we expect and anticipate could happen. And I am fully prepared, and I expect council to have discussions about projects that we may move ahead with, projects that we may not move ahead with, projects that we may, delay for a construction cycle. We have to make those decisions, and those decisions will come in the next couple of months.
Okay, excellent. Someone else had asked about protective equipment for city employees. What is the city doing there in terms of that? I know Toronto has struggled with that to some extent. I think they had some equipment that they had to return, but has the city been had to order extra equipment or provide people with extra gloves, etc., masks?
No, we at the outset had what we needed, and we had a decent amount of supply. So, we made some orders of some equipment, at the beginning of this process, but right now the city itself doesn't have significant demands for PPE, but we can meet our current demand with our current supply.
Well, I think that's all that we have to ask at the moment, but we do have other questions that we can go through, so I hope that we'll do this again in the future if this carries on.
I'm always available to you and your team. It's important to me that I communicate with the community as much as possible. I want to reiterate to everybody the critical importance that we all work together, that we're in this together. The quicker we become aligned, the more consistently we all act in common with one another, the quicker we'll get through this. Algoma Public Health has been very clear, and I want to thank it for its good work and recognize that we should all follow its advice. If you have COVID-19 symptoms, you need to self-isolate. If you're returning from out of country, you need to self-isolate. If you are not returning from out of country and you don't have COVID-19 symptoms, we still need you to stay home. If you have to go out for something that's essential, we need you to practice physical distancing. I'd encourage everybody to visit Algoma Public Health's website to learn about those concepts and to get more information. They have a self-assessment tool on that website where you can determine whether or not you have COVID-19 symptoms and whether or not you have to self-isolate. And I want to end by wishing everybody a happy Easter weekend. I know we're in difficult times, but this is a tremendously strong community that has come through difficult times many times together. And I have every confidence as your mayor that we will do it again, and we will do it better, and we will do it quicker as long as we keep on acting consistently with one another. So I want to thank you all. I want to wish you all a happy Easter weekend. And I want to wish you all much health.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for this, and we will resume next week.
Okay, Mike, take care of yourself. Best wishes to you and the team over at Village.